had a last minute change, so we want to say thank you for those who are joining us on Zoom today. Thank you to those who are still joining us on Facebook Live today as well. And we're just happy to still have this program one way or another with our great speaker. In a minute, I'm going to introduce him, but first I just want to introduce Lars from AP Michaud Insurance. He's going to say a couple words, and then we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lars Olson. I'm from AP Michaud Insurance in Methuen, Massachusetts, right off of Merrimack Street. I just wanted to let you all know we do personal lines, commercial lines. We're pretty much a one-stop shop for all your commercial needs when it comes to insurance. That's about it. Let's get on to our guest speaker.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate it, Lars. Thank you again. And again, thank you to everyone who worked with us still to have this program still happen today. I want to introduce our speaker for today. He's an author of Total Patriots, and now he's the author of Relive Patriots History. He's a Patriots historian. If you ever want to know anything Patriots, he'll blow your mind. It's amazing. And, he's usually the speaker of our expo breakfasts where we had 30, 40, 50 people, and the people leave stunned. They're amazed at how much knowledge he has, how much interaction he has. And we're happy to have him here via Zoom today. And before I introduce you, Bob, I just want to show you, I do have my Patriots shirt on today. So I got that going. So with that being said, I want to say thank you all for joining us. And I want to introduce our speaker, Bob Hyldburg, who is the Patriots historian and author.
Thank you very much, Michael, and nice to see you, Rayanne. And I appreciate the sponsorship, Lars, and AP Michaud Insurance, and Pete, and anyone else that's on this Zoom meeting. We're going to cover a lot of different things. I have a tendency of talking real fast, so I hope you keep up, but I want to just share a few stories. My first game was in 1967, and my uncle knew Gino Cappelletti from business relationships in the 1776 club, and went to the first game, and we lost 44-16. But I still have the program, and I met a lot of players that were in that game. There's a lot of local players, and back when the Boston Patriots were around, there was a lot of local flavor. Guys from the North Shore, guys from the South Shore, guys from Boston College. And then, in the 70s, we had a couple decent teams. But, I really became a fan when I heard that guys were doing autograph shows, and I wanted to go and meet some of the players. So as an accountant by trade, I figured, well, if you're going to get a guy's autograph, you probably want to know something about his career. So I would put together all their stats. So when a guy came from Texas or California or Florida or whatever to do an autograph show in Foxborough or wherever it was, Rhode Island, or the North Shore, I would have all their stats. So I became known as Bob the Stat Man back in the 70s. So Steve Grogan was a local guy, and when a guy like Mike Haynes or Russ Francis came to town, he would call me or contact me and say, hey, this guy's coming, put together his stats, and one thing led to another. And over the years, we got a chance to meet a lot of the players, and along the way, we tried to get Gino Cappelletti into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we worked with Eddie Edelman of the Sports Huddle and got on some national radio shows. And in the process of putting together thousands of petitions, I finally got recognized as, one of the chief statisticians of the team, and Bob the Stat Man. And even though we didn't get Gino into the Hall of Fame, I got some national recognition, and that's when a publishing company out of Chicago found out that I had all these stats about all these players, and they said, can you put it all together with some stories and some trivia, and we'll buy some pictures from the Boston Globe. And lo and behold, after about 15 years of looking everything up and reminiscing about all the stories, Total Patriots come out, and that was 10 years ago. Well, I figured, all right, one book, I'm an author, it's pretty cool, and I've spoken about it all along these last 5 or 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And then lo and behold, the Patriots have my book, Total Patriots, behind the glass in the Patriots Hall of Fame. And Brian Morey of the Hall of Fame, the executive director, came to me a couple of years ago and said, what would be great is if we took all your stories and stats and put it into an interactive display. So when someone comes to the Patriots Hall of Fame, they can actually go up to a computer screen and say, show me Drew Bledsoe, show me Drew Plunkett, show me Troy Brown, and all of their stats would pop up. So it took a couple of years to create an Excel spreadsheet with about 186 different categories for 1,268 players. And through friends of mine that are geniuses about putting all that stuff together, we finally did it. And in March, I presented it to them. And if you go to the Hall of Fame now, it's on the 3rd floor. So they've added the pictures and all the stats came from me. So now I have all these stats updated from my first book and with all the stuff up until last year. And that's how this book came to be. Relive Patriots History. So this is a 60-year history of the team. So anything you wanted to know, like Michael says, about any player or about any game, there's all kind of memorable moments, obscure facts. And if you went to a game, Rayanne in Buffalo, and something happened that was weird, it's in this book, like if a guy caught a pass that deflected off the guy's knee and the guy ran for a touchdown, or, if there was a bizarre play on a 4th down where, the ball went into the end zone and the guy recovered it in the end zone for a safety or something like that. So we've chronicled 60 years of just memorable moments, all kind of top 10 lists. And in the process of putting all that together, I've had a chance to interview hundreds of players, and for 13 years, I actually worked in the Patriots press room. So I was there and actually didn't have to pay for those tickets. I actually get paid to be there, which is even better. But I'm just a fan. I was just a fan. I didn't work for a newspaper or a radio station or anything like that. I just happened to be someone that was curious about collecting every, you name it, every block punt, every 2-point conversion, every unsuccessful 2-point conversion, any of these obscure plays. So part of this whole process is learning, how do you get things done? So in order to kind of get things done, and how did I come up with all of these things? Well, I would break it down into small components and think about it every day. So in the process of becoming an author and a public speaker, now I am a leadership mentor, kind of a coach that gets people to say, what do you dream about? What do you think about? What are some of the things you want to accomplish in your life? What are your vision? And, the feedback that I've been getting from people, sharing all of these kind of emotional moments. I mean, there's so many things that happen that you enjoy. But, it all comes down to what your thoughts are. I mean, I thought that maybe I might do a trivia book, 30 years ago. And that trivia book turned into not only a trivia book, but an insane, detailed breakdown of pretty much every game and every player. So my thoughts actually gave me a belief that I can do something that had never been done before. And some of the reviews about this insane quest of 20,000 hours of research has given me just so many insights as to, how did the Patriots succeed? How did they become 6-time world champions? I mean, you look at, the professional athlete, or for that matter, anyone in any field, you're going to have obstacles. You're going to have, places that you're stuck. You're going to have some issues where you're going to run into some things. And, we look at even just 2 weeks ago, the Patriots barely beat the New York Jets, the worst team in the league. So now they're going up against the Baltimore team, which is number 1 on offense and number 1 on defense. And they, the discrepancy between our team barely beating an undefeated team, a team that had never won this year, and turning it around. And it was all about their mental toughness. The Patriots, you can't count a Bill Belichick game out. Yeah, they're going to have some blips now and then. You're going to be unfocused and you're going to fumble the ball and you're going to make interceptions. But when I'm watching a game, I'm primarily looking at who's making the least mistakes, who is mentally tough, who's going to rise above the occasion. And you look at this year, the Patriots, very low on penalties. They've made some turnovers, but that's part of the game. And the team that turns the ball over is going to lose the game mostly. But that was the success that the Patriots had. In 1994, Willie McGinnis and Teddy Bruschi and Louis Malloy started this culture called "Do Your Job." And prior to the 90s, the Patriots probably had one good team every 10 years. In 75, 76, 77, 78, they had a couple, and they made the playoffs, but lost both playoff games. And then in 85, they won 3 road games and then get smoked in the Super Bowl. And then Drew Bledsoe came and they lost the Super Bowl. So, for 50 years, pretty much, we had 5 good teams, 6 good teams. And then, they said, we got to do our job. And for that matter, we got to do it well. And how do we do that? And it's all through leadership and encouragement. But a lot of it is dealing with mindset. There's a lot of, believing in the system. And once you understand what your strengths are, I mean, that's what Belichick does. He finds what your strengths are and he maximizes them. He says, all right, this is how you're going to do it. If you've got weaknesses, all right, we're not going to expose your weaknesses. And he finds the weaknesses in the other teams and exposes them. When they beat the Rams, they found out the Rams' strength was Marshall Faulk. If we shut down Marshall Faulk, chances are we're going to be able to beat the Rams. And all the defensive geniuses, that was amazing how they were able to take the greatest show on turf and beat the Rams in 2001, or for that matter, in the Super Bowl 2002. And then you look at the Atlanta game. The Atlanta Falcons were losing 28-3. 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Now, they looked at all the different things. The odds were 997-1 that a team was going to come back by that big a score with that amount of time left. Well, there was 33 different instances during the game that if one of them went one way or the other, the Patriots would have lost that game. Time management, offsides, running the ball versus passing, or vice versa, field position, sacks, fumbles, turnovers, you name it. The Patriots, Julian Edelman, if you remember the video, laser focus, this is it. And then on the other side, Mohamed Sanu, who is the Falcons receiver, saying, I know we're winning 28-3, but they have Tom Brady on the other sideline. So even though they were up, they still had that doubt that they were still going to win the game. So that thought process had already infiltrated the Falcons on the other sidelines. And then when the owner comes down and is celebrating before the game's over, that inspired the Patriots to play even more focused. So the idea of, believing in what you can do and just doing your job, and you do it one play at a time. Pete Brock, who's a speaker and the president of the New England Patriots alumni, he's playing in a game and he's the center. And on the first play of the game, he injures his knee. And John Hanna, if you remember John Hanna back in the 70s and 80s, one of the greatest offensive linemen ever, he goes over to Pete Brock and says, I see you injured your knee, but can you go one more play? Because our backup is nowhere near, even if you're at 50%, as good as you are at 50%. And Pete Brock says, of course I can do one more play. And a few little bit later, Pete Brock's limping and Hanna says, can you go one more play? Yes. I mean, you have that mental toughness, you have that mental fortitude. You say, I'm prepared for this. Yeah, or I can fix my knee, or we can handle that later. And Pete Brock played the whole game. They ended up winning the game, and he won the game ball because he was mentally tough. When you're in the field of battle, you're going up against people with maybe similar skills, but who's the toughest? Who's the most resilient? Who's the most adaptable? And who's the most prepared for situations? And that's what this is all about. This situation of reliving Patriots history is seeing how the Patriots overcame numerous obstacles, or what they did, or how they did that, and how they actually rose above to play in 9 Super Bowls and to win 6. I mean, they could have won a couple more. They could have lost a couple more. One of my favorite plays is the Malcolm Butler play. The idea of, when you're out there and you have your certain thoughts and beliefs and practice and role play, they practiced that play, and they knew, Belichick and even Malcolm Butler and Brandon Browner, they all knew what to do on that play when Malcolm Butler made that interception to beat the Seattle Seahawks in that Super Bowl. And if you notice, when Malcolm Butler actually made the move and made the interception, there's 4 parts of his helmet that usually you buckle in. He only had 2 of them. He was running on the field so quick. They said, Malcolm, get out there. We know what play they're going to run. They did the film study. They did the preparation. And he only had time to put 2 of his buckles on his helmet. And it's amazing that his helmet actually didn't come off in that collision. But, that's the whole idea about, when you're prepared for something and you're mentally ready and you're confident and you know what to do, when the game presents itself, when the opportunity presents itself, you go for it. So a lot of those kind of stories are in this book of bringing that back, and hopefully, bringing back a lot of memories of people. This is a fabulous gift. And, one of the things that I really wanted to do is, because the Patriots fans are so fanatic and passionate, and Rain mentioned the Buffalo, they're rabid fans, but no one is more educated fans than the Patriots. And now we're going to take that to another level. Anyone that gets this book is going to be exponentially even more educated and more knowledgeable about the history of the team, not only in the last 20 years, but the last 60 years. And to be able to see where we've come to be a championship team, and we'll be back, maybe not so much this year. This is a unique year, no question about it, with COVID and not being able to practice and no training camp. So some of that advantage that Belichick has usually against other teams has been diminished, and some of our better players are out. And we've got to develop. But, we're looking at the future. I'm looking at Belichick being there for another 5 or 6 years anyways, because he wants to beat Don Shula's record of the most wins by any football coach. And he's about 60 wins away. So you figure that's at least 5 or 6 years of coaching, and he loves it. There's a video of him with Julian Edelman, and they're leaving the stadium at 11:30 at night. And as they're walking out, Bill Belichick's, I know it's 11:30 at night, but this beats being a plumber. Nothing against plumber, but they just love it. They're out there working and doing film study. And, one of the things that Tom Brady made Tom Brady so great is that he would get there early and he'd outwork anyone out there. There was one time that Rodney Harrison, who's now in the Patriots Hall of Fame, got there at 6:30 in the morning. And Tom Brady said, "Hey, good afternoon." 6:30 in the morning. He said, "Yeah, well, I've been here since 5:30. This is what it takes to win. You got to have the work ethic. You got to put the time in. You got to be prepared, and you got to be obsessed about being the best." And that's what the Patriots do. They have a commitment to excellence, and they have that team environment and that team vision. And they get guys from all different backgrounds and all different stories to really just bump up their game and, put them in a position to win. And, there's so many guys that are versatile out there. You see guys, Gino Cappelletti, when he first started, he was a defensive back and a wide receiver. So, back in the 60s, they only had 35 people on the team, on their roster. Now we get 53, and some of these guys are specialized. But there are times that you got to play both positions. There were times that Troy Brown, who was a wide receiver and a special team guy, was in the defensive room. And they're like, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Well, just in case someone gets hurt, they want me to learn how to become a defensive back." And sure enough, he gets put in the position, and he records 3 interceptions. And he actually intercepted his former quarterback, Drew Bledsoe, in a game. So, when you're hiring and you're working with people, you got to see how versatile they are and how adaptive they are and how open-minded they are that they want to learn. Productive people want to, improve and grow and strengthen. And you do that with your thoughts. You do that with, what are you thinking about and how does that help you achieve your results and your goals? There's a question that they ask you, what are you thinking and why are you thinking it? And does that help us achieve what we want to achieve? And if not, let's pivot and change our thinking process, because the thoughts deal with the feelings deal with attitudes, your attitudes deal with your actions, and then you get the results you want. So, that's part of what we want to do. And, I never thought that I'd write 2 books, never write 1 book of, so many pages and so much detail, but you just meet the people that are along the year, over the years of the feedback that you got from the guys who were doing the autograph shows that they would give it to their families, or for that matter, the people that, the fans that received, so much joy of reminiscing about a game that happened 20 or 30 or 50 years ago. We just had a Monday night game against the Jets, and the first Monday night game that we ever had was in 1972, and it was so many stories from that game. But, I was at that game, and, back then we didn't have a lot of, promotion, when the halftime shows were marching bands. So they said, well, let's do a unbelievable halftime show, and they hired this guy, Hungarian Olympic diver, high diver, Joe Gerlach, who was a stuntman. And he actually blew up a hot air balloon about 100 feet off the 50-yard line and fell out of it, landed on a hot air mattress. And as he landed, a gun went off and everyone was just like, oh my God, somebody shot him. And he comes up. So they had to have some unique ways of entertaining the crowd back then, because we ended up losing that game. But there's so many kind of fun stories. There was one time that the Patriots needed a long snapper, and they needed a guy just to snap the ball to the holder so we could kick a field goal. And the two guys that we had were injured, and the Patriots found out that this guy who had been out of the league for a couple of years, but he had played for 13 years, and he was teaching a high school class in Louisiana. And the Patriots called him during his class. They didn't know what he was doing, and tracked him down. And during the class, he gets a phone call from the Patriots, and he's on the phone, and he says, I don't know, I'm teaching my class, and one of the kids in the class said, are you talking to the Patriots? It seems like you're talking to the Patriots. And the teacher said, yes, I'm talking to the Patriots. They want me to go work for them and be a long snapper. And the kid said, the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. They are the best team in the league. Teacher, we can miss you for a couple of weeks. Why don't you take off and go? And the teacher, Mr. Kitchen, said, that's the smartest kid in my class. And if he thinks the Patriots are going to win, I better take his advice. He calls his wife and says, I'm flying to Foxborough. He gets the job. He plays in a couple of regular season games, plays in the Super Bowl, makes a perfect snap in the Super Bowl, and Vinatieri kicks the field goal with 5 seconds left to win the Super Bowl. I mean, those kind of crazy stories are out there that, the Patriots find people that do the job. So, there's a lot of fun stuff that's out there. And hopefully some of these memories will come back from guys that maybe played in 3 games or 5 games, or they played for a long time, like a Steve Grogan or Tom Brady or Gronkowski and stuff like that. So part of this book is to relive Patriots history. And, kind of what I'm doing now is doing one-on-one coaching and leadership coaching to talk about this whole process of mindset and leadership and encouragement and dealing with people that are running into obstacles and frustrations and stress and anxiety, and kind of, understand and be aware of that situation, how to kind of bring that to a neutral situation and then pivot to find something that gives you hope and focus and provides impacts that you can change people's lives. So I've got hundreds of those kind of stories, and the whole management leadership skills about resilience and overcoming and having a great attitude and a mindset of winning.
That's awesome, Bob. Thanks so much. I don't know about the other watchers on this, but I know all I can think about is this is a great gift for my brother-in-law, seeing the holidays are coming up. So for everyone that's kind of watching, like, how can we get your book? And more importantly, how do I get a signed copy?
Yeah, I'm local. So the best way to do that is to reach out through Twitter.
Okay.
So if you do Twitter or Instagram, if you do Twitter, it's Bob the Statman. All one word, Bob the Statman on Twitter. If you go to Instagram, just Bob Hyldburg, and my last name's a little different, Hyldburg. But the easiest one is Bob the Statman on Twitter, and another way is for Facebook. I have a group, Why We Love Boston. That's a simple way. Just join that, and then we can direct message me there. eBay, it's on eBay. If you get it on eBay, there's a spot there where I'm selling eBay, and I can get you an autographed copy that way. If you go to Amazon, it's being sold all over the world. As a matter of fact, I get fan clubs from the United Kingdom and Canada that have bought it. And eventually, when they come out for a game or two in the next couple of years, I'll meet them in the parking lot and sign a copy then. And if you ever want to host anything, any kind of events, once this COVID thing hits, maybe later in the year or during the playoffs or next spring or whatever, I'm doing a lot of client appreciation dinners, master of ceremonies, trivia events, like Michael said, expos and things like that. You want any kind of business, you just want to have me there for an hour or two just to promote your business, and we can do it that way too. So there's all different ways of doing it. I'm in Woburn, not far from you guys, and willing to travel and, you know, hook it up. But that's probably the best way is reach through, you know, through Michael Nazal, or for that matter, AN, if you guys want to
Yeah.
just touch base with the Merrimack Valley, and then we'll kind of loop back that way too.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can always contact us. We will get you Bob's updated contact information. And I just want to mention I know that I've seen the book, I read the book Total Patriots, and the amount of knowledge and the amount of history, the amount of facts in there, it is just mind blowing how much is actually in that book. So I can't wait to read the new copy myself. But I just want to say thank you to Bob for taking the time out of his schedule. I want to say congratulations on another great book. We're definitely looking forward to reading that. We're looking forward to having you in person for an autograph signing ourselves. Any questions at all for Bob at all? He'll have an answer, I promise.
No, I'm originally from Annapolis, Maryland, so I can't tell you how that Ravens game made me feel. I'm kind of caught between. I grew up going to UNH, my dad and everything, so I'm a big Patriots fan. I'm a big New England sports fan, but I am a Ravens fan because I was born and raised there.
There you go. Well, you can't help it. I mean, that's the same thing. You know, I'm 9 years old. I grew up as a Boston Patriots fan because you get exposed to it. But
yeah, and I love the Patriots. So, and it's nice when the Patriots are doing well. Usually the Ravens aren't. So, and vice versa. So,
but, I mean, Baltimore has played very well against, especially in the playoffs. I mean, it was heartbreaking when Billy Cundiff missed that field goal, a 23-yard field goal, and allowed us to go to the Super Bowl. But then, you know, Ray Rice went crazy on us.
29. What was it? 4th and 29 to even get us a chance at the playoffs, and then we end up going to the Super Bowl.
That's it. So, and there's so many. I mean, going to Northeastern. I mean, half of my fraternity was from Philadelphia, New Jersey, and New York. So, you know, there are still friends of mine that I've known for 40 years that are Giants fans, and like we hate the Patriots. You know, well, you've known me for 40 years, but no, the Giants are more important than my relationship with you. You know. That's fine. I mean, you know, we can have a beer and laugh about it, you know?
Yep.
But no, it's been a blast. I mean, the amazing opportunities that come to play and for that matter, to speak in front of the crowds that Michael and his father and everyone in Merrimack Valley Chamber has put together for me. I mean, just reliving some of the memories. I mean, if you went to a game, like Rayanne, you went to Buffalo, but if you went to a game 30 years ago or 50 years ago, I did an obscure book signing in Lake Winnipesaukee where like 4 people showed up, but we got away for the weekend. But there was one guy from Maine that was 3 hours away, and he drove his pickup truck, and he can only drive at 40 miles an hour, but he took 2.5 hours, 3 hours to drive there because he wanted to talk about Babe Parilli and Gino Cappelletti and Bob D and those guys from the 60s. And I met them all. Well, not Bob D because he passed on, but I met his wife. And I was able to kind of, you know, have a conversation with some of the games and some of his memories. And that was when the Total Patriots book came out. And he said, this was unbelievable. I haven't thought about this for years. So much joy. And I can't wait to read it. And hopefully we'll do another book signing up there and I'll meet this guy again. Because I wanted to, you know, bring this stuff out and to educate the fans, you know, bring out even more memories and the details of what happened and who and what and why and why it was so obscure. You know, I have things in here, guys that scored a touchdown on their birthday, or left-handed passes that completed a pass. You know, there's only like 3 people that are left-handed people that have completed a pass. You know, you figured it's got to be more than that. No, there isn't. You know. So I mean, there's some fun stuff, and you know, and when I started this first book, The Total Patriots, I'd get on all kind of radio stations and go to trivia contests and win all kind of prizes to the point where I wouldn't be allowed anymore. So now I have to present them. I have to be the host because I knew the answers before they even finished the question. So I guess I'm a ringer now. So, but now it's the other side. Now I ask the questions. So and there's some fun stuff, and I make it easy. I make it fun and enjoyable, and I want to be entertaining, and hopefully my passion comes across to people that, you know, all this time and energy, spending time with these players and meeting Brady and Gronk and whoever, Mike Vrabel, or any of the players that I've met, Troy Brown and Ty Law, and getting, you know, involved in Andre Tippett's Hall of Fame induction in 2008 and going out to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it's priceless to, you know, to have the journey that I've had. But And that's part of it. If you're passionate and enthusiastic about what you do, opportunity is going to just present itself, and just enjoy the ride. It's always been a pleasure of meeting and sharing stories with people.
Well, you definitely sound passionate about what you're doing and the Patriots, and definitely comes across. And I think what you said, rings true with any profession, which is it's not always the biggest, it's not always the strongest, it's not always the fastest, it's the one who wants it the most. And I think that's something to remember each and every day. And it comes across obviously with the Patriots. We get to watch it firsthand, which has been amazing. But again, I just want to say thank you, Bob. We appreciate it. His book, Relive Patriots History, is available. You can go to any of the sites that he mentioned: eBay, Twitter, Facebook. You can contact the chamber directly. We'll get you in contact with Bob. But I just want to say thank you again.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys.
Perfect.
And, Rand, nice to see everybody. And we'll be in touch. Go
Sounds
Pats.
good. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Take care.